You can stream us, 106.7 The Fan YouTube. You can listen wherever you are on the Odyssey app. Let's go to the Rude Guest Hotline, though. Rude, the most reliable heating and air conditioning products in the DMV. Welcome onto the show, Bill Bender from the Sporting News, senior writer covering college football. Bill, this should be quite a weekend coming up, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me on, Grant. Where to begin? You know, do you want to start with the playoff craziness, the coaching carousel? I think it's about the playoff this weekend, though, and can we get the right 12 in? And there are some wrinkles to that, starting with the ACC. I think they're kind of the drama for the second straight season.
Certainly. So let's start right there, because I know that a lot of our listeners are inclined not only on the Virginia Duke game to care, but also the JMU angle here. Is it as simple that if Duke wins that game and JMU handles its business tonight, they're in the playoff, or is there more to it than that?
Well, there's always more to it, unfortunately. In my opinion, it should be James Madison's end. You know, the Dukes have done. I've been particularly impressed with what they've done since they were ranked. You know, sometimes teams will get in the top 25 out of the group of five, and they'll lose right away. They've done their job. And heavy favorites tonight, obviously, against Troy. I think they take care of business. But if Duke wins, then it becomes Duke versus the Dukes in some ways. But it also becomes a political game for the ACC. What I actually think they will do is they'll shift to – I made the joke this week that, you know, Commissioner Phillips may just come out instead of the teams after that game and run a press conference about why Miami should be ahead of Notre Dame, because that would be their better bet to get in the playoff, in my opinion.
So that's one of the other huge debates here is Miami and Notre Dame. If it comes down to those schools, where do you weigh in?
It's a tough one. I get both sides. You're going to hate my answer because it's like both. I stand on the fence on it a little bit. Miami has the head-to-head. The metrics are comparable. By most of the statistical things, Miami should be in. But I've watched Notre Dame for the last month, and I look at them as a team, and when I watch them, I think there's a team that might actually beat Ohio State this year. And there are not too many that I about at least compete with Ohio State for 4 quarters. That's not a reason to take one over the other. But the committee has had Notre Dame over Miami the whole time, including Tuesday. Why would they switch it now? And if you want to do the head-to-head argument, I went to a Catholic school, and every Notre Dame fan and their brother and their son and their mom will tell you, what about 1993 when Notre Dame beat Florida State and Florida State won the national title? Nobody that likes Notre Dame has ever or will ever forget about that moment, and they should have won the national title that year.
Bill Bender is our guest, talking college football, championship weekend and conference plays coming up. We'll dive into a couple of those games with him on Grant and Danny. One other question on the playoff. So Texas is 9-3, and nobody's got a better resume of wins, if that's a thing. But they have lost 3 times, including to a bad Florida team. Are you of the belief that you disqualify yourself when you lose 3 times? Or do you think, hey, let's just have the best teams that have the best chance to win with the highest ceilings in there, and if that means a 3-loss SEC team gets in over somebody else and the results matter a little less, so be it?
Yeah, I think the committee should do that. I think Texas has a very compelling case. They probably should be in the playoff. Now, we have to weigh both, though. Are we weighing scheduling Ohio State and losing a close game versus they did lose to Florida? Florida did win 4 games. It's a bad loss. I don't care that they played in the swamp. It's still not good at the end of the year. And they didn't play well in some of their wins. You know, they needed overtime to beat Kentucky and Mississippi State. It's not like they barreled through their schedule, but they do have an impressive collection of wins. I get everything that Steve Sarkisian said. He's right. You know, why would you step out and schedule out if we're just going to make this a win-loss game? And I've been on that for a while.
Let me double-click on that really quickly, because I think that's the point. We got a lot of people that are listening in the DMV that maybe follow college football casually, and they go, well, they have 3 losses. What's the debate? Well, the debate is that Ohio State and Texas played to start the year in a game that Texas doesn't have to play. And if you are going to penalize teams for having an extra loss when they've decided I could have gone cupcakes and just won easy tune-up games, but I gave you what is good for college football, which is good on good SEC Big Ten, but you're going to penalize me. Why would anyone schedule those games anymore? Why would we ever get those really, really good games? I think that's a great argument.
We won't get them. And that's the issue. And I totally agree. Now, I've been posing this question, and hypotheticals are what they are. If Texas would have played like Minnesota there, I've used Minnesota. They've caught a lot of strays with this argument. That Minnesota and they were 10-2. Is there any doubt in your mind, Grant, that they're ranked ahead of Oklahoma right now? Texas.
Right. No.
There's no doubt in my mind that they are. But they did step out and play that game against Ohio State. And like I said, you got to weigh in the Florida loss. There's no question. You've got to weigh in the Georgia loss, where they weren't really competitive in the fourth quarter. So, but I want to see good games, and I'm afraid teams are going to see what's happening with Texas, and they're just going to say, you know what, we'll play with how tough these new schedules are within the conference. We're just going to schedule 3 cupcakes and go on with our lives. And that, by the way, that worked for Michigan in 23, Ohio State last year to some extent. They didn't play anybody in non-con play. And you know, nobody complained at either one of those places at the end of the year.
Looking ahead to the most important 48 hours of college football of the season, Bill Bender is with us. You can check out his work in the Sporting News, senior writer on Grant and Danny. Ohio State, Indiana for the Big Ten title, top couple of teams in America. This was at one point in time like the Ohio State-Michigan matchup that everybody looked forward to here with the top couple of teams, and now it's Curt Cignetti's Hoosiers. Who wins?
I think Indiana has a chance, but this Ohio State defense, they got to score more than 16 points to do it. Ohio State hasn't allowed more than 16 points all year. It's really quite a remarkable stat when you think about it.
Wow.
And struggled to run the football against Oregon, against Penn State, against Iowa. They averaged about 107 rushing yards in those 3 games. So at some point, it's going to come to Fernando Mendoza or even Julian Sayin. Do these guys have a huge game in that spotlight? We'll see. And I think the Heisman Trophy's in the balance there in some ways. I'm super excited about it. But again, Grant, we just talked about it. The value of a conference championship game, it feels a little bit like basketball to me, where it's going to be an awesome game, and I'm super excited about it. I grew up around the Big Ten and all that. But at the end of the day, the winner's going to be 1 and the loser's going to be 4, and there's a decent chance they could play again in the semifinals. That's hard to wrap your brain around sometimes, because the last time there was a 1v2 in the Big Ten, it was Michigan, Ohio State. They were both undefeated. It's still the greatest Big Ten game I've ever watched, and there were real consequences. Ohio State went to the title game. Michigan didn't.
Indianapolis, the site of that Big Ten title game, 8 o'clock East time kickoff tomorrow for the Buckeyes and the Hoosiers. Games televised on Fox. In the ACC championship game in Charlotte tomorrow night on ABC, that's another 8 o'clock East time kick, so we'll be multitasking. It's a multi-screen night, I think, for a lot of us. Virginia and Duke. Virginia is only a 4-point favorite. Do you think this is going to be a tight game?
Well, Virginia just beat them, didn't they? Not like 3 weeks ago. I love Virginia's running game. I do with Jamari Taylor. I like the quarterback play from Chandler. He's been good since he came out. You know, got knocked out of the Wake Forest game, but they've been good. I mean, you're asking me to predict the ACC. You know how hard that's been this year? I do think Virginia will win the football game. I do think they'll get to the college football playoff, and Tony Elliott's done a wonderful job. He should probably generate more Coach of the Year discussion for what he's been able to do there, for them to go 11-2 and do all those things. Now, if Duke wins, like we talked about, and Duke is capable of winning that game, you know what the irony of this is? And I've heard this a couple times this week. The quarterbacks for Virginia and Duke were the quarterbacks from North Texas and Tulane last year, and those two teams are playing tonight. What a weird, wild sport I cover, and I enjoy every second of it.
You're not kidding. Virginia winning in college football playoff. It's just funny as we talk to you from the Commonwealth, as we're out in Reston right now, that I got a fan wearing a JMU hat here. The Dukes are so heavily involved in everything going on there. I guess we'll keep it local for the final question here. The Napier hire for James Madison University, they've become a power in the Sun Belt, but also just kind of a breeding ground for the next big coach in the league with Cignetti and Chesney walking out the door. What do you think of the Napier hire?
It shows James Madison's real deal. And they're one of those programs that has made the adjustment, made the jump, and made it quickly and been successful. And some of that is the success that they had at the previous level carried over. It reminds me of App a little bit when App made the jump, and they were good right away. And then there was some bumps and those kind of things. Part of it is you can sell your program very well by having your coaches move up. And Signetti's a great poster child for that, by the way. He's been amazing. And that's my point about Tulane and North Texas tonight. Both of those coaches are leveling up, so to speak. So when you're selling your program to the next guy, you say, hey, if you give us 3-4 good years, you're going to go to this job. And Napier did very well his last time in the Group of 5. And you know, he can do that again. I still think Florida kind of pressed it a little early on him, like they do with every coach, because that job takes a little bit more to get it going.
Good information. I can't wait for tonight. Going to be an exciting kickoff to a couple of really entertaining evenings in college football. Thank you, Bill. Be good.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me on. Take care.